My son stole my villa and handed it over to his wife's greedy family. He looked me in the eye and said, "This is theirs now. You are nothing here." I didn't argue. I didn't beg. I just smiled. But when they came to move in, boxes, laughter, champagne, all ready to celebrate. What they found waiting inside wasn't welcome. It was a surprise that scorched their souls forever. And now, I'm here telling you my story. Because I need to know, am I the villain, or did I do what any father would have done? Stick with me till the end, because what happened in that villa will make you question loyalty, love, and justice. And trust me, you won't see the ending coming. Oh, and before we dive deep, don't forget to like this video, subscribe, and hit that bell icon, because stories like this, they deserve to be heard. I remember the moment like it was yesterday. My son stood in front of me, his wife smirking just behind him, and her parents lurking in the doorway like vultures waiting for a carcass. He looked me dead in the eye and said, "Dad, this villa isn't yours anymore. It belongs to Rebecca's family now. From today, this is their home. And you're nothing here." For a second, I thought it was a cruel joke. I built this villa brick by brick, pouring every ounce of sweat and sacrifice into it. And here he was, my own son, handed away like it was a cheap gift, like I was a stranger. I waited for him to laugh, to say, "Just kidding, Dad." But his eyes didn't flinch. His wife crossed her arms, almost daring me protest. Her parents smiled like hyenas. I could have screamed. I could have fought. I could have begged. But I didn't. I just smiled. And in that moment, they thought they had won. Little did they know, I had already set things in motion. Things they would never forget. But before I tell you about the surprise that scorched their souls forever, you need to understand how we got here. Because this wasn't just about money. This was about betrayal, greed, and the kind of family drama you'd expect from a soap opera. Except it was my real life. You see, this villa wasn't just a house. It was my entire life's work. I wasn't born rich. My father was a factory worker, and my mother worked 2 jobs just to keep food on the table. We lived in a cramped apartment where the walls were so thin, you could hear the neighbors argue every night. When I was a boy, I used to stand at the window and look out at the big houses across town, the ones with wide lawns, white fences, and balconies where families drank lemonade in the summer. I told myself, one day, I'll have a house like that, a place my family can be proud of, a place that no one can take away. And so I worked. I worked 3 jobs in my 20s, day shift at the mill, night shifts as a security guard, and weekends fixing cars in a greasy garage. I barely slept. I barely ate. But every paycheck I saved, every dime went into the dream. By the time I met my wife, I had enough saved to buy a small plot of land. It wasn't much, just a barren stretch of dirt with weeds taller than me. But to me, it was a castle waiting to rise. My wife believed in me. She used to say, "One day, our children will play here, and they'll never know the hunger we knew." It took nearly 15 years of grinding, sweating, and bleeding, but brick by brick, the villa rose. Not a mansion, not a palace, but strong, warm, and filled with memories. Every corner told a story. The living room where my wife and I danced to old records, laughing like teenagers. The kitchen where I burned pancakes on Sunday mornings, and my son would giggle, "Daddy, you're a bad chef." The backyard where I built a treehouse with my own hands, just so my boy would have a place to dream. That villa wasn't just walls and floors. It was my heart. And when my wife passed away, too young and too soon, it became even more sacred. Every window still carried her laughter. Every hallway whispered her voice. It was all I had left of her. So imagine the pain, the knife to the chest, when my only son, the boy I raised, the boy who once clung to my leg and called me his hero, looked me in the eye and gave away like garbage. And not just to anyone, but to his wife's greedy family. Do you see now why I smiled instead of fighting? Because some betrayals don't deserve words. They deserve something stronger, something unforgettable. My son wasn't always like this. Once upon a time, he was the kind of boy who would run to me when I came home, his little arms wrapping around my legs, shouting, "Daddy, you're home." I raised him to value honesty, hard work, and respect. I taught him how to change a tire, fix a leaky faucet, and stand tall in the face of life storms. I thought I was raising a man of integrity. But then she came into the picture. Rebecca. Now, I'm not here to demonize every daughter-in-law, but Rebecca, she had a way of changing the air in a room. Sweet as honey when she wanted something, sharp as glass when she didn't. At first, I welcomed her with open arms. She was polite, charming, all smiles. But over time, the cracks showed, the whispers in the kitchen, the sideways glances when I spoke, the way she would tug my son's arm when I offered advice, like she was pulling him into her world and away from mine. One evening, I overheard them arguing in the living room. I wasn't supposed to hear it, but the walls carry sound. Rebecca hissed, "Why should we wait for your father to leave us the villa? He's old. He doesn't need it anymore. It should be ours now. My parents could live comfortably here instead of that tiny apartment." My son whispered back, "Rebecca, it's his house. He built it with his own hands. I can't just..." She cut him off, her voice sharp. "Can or won't. You promised me security. You said when we married, we'd live better than this. Don't tell me you're still clinging to your father's outdated notions of respect." And then came the dagger. "If you can't give me this, then maybe you're not the man I thought I married." I froze. I wanted to storm in, to shake my son, and remind him of everything I'd done for him. But I didn't. I waited, and slowly, painfully, I watched as she bent him like wet clay. It started small. He stopped asking for my opinion. He started siding with her in every disagreement. He looked at me less like a father and more like an obstacle. The final straw was a dinner. We were all at the table, me, my son, Rebecca, and her parents. The meal was quiet until Rebecca's father leaned back in his chair and said, almost casually, "So, when do we move into the villa?" The table went silent. I looked at my son. Surely he would laugh it off. Surely he would say, "That's my father's house. Don't be ridiculous." But instead, he cleared his throat, avoided my eyes, and said, "Soon, very soon." Rebecca's mother clapped her hands together like she had just won the lottery. And me? I just set my fork down, folded my napkin, and excused myself from the table. I went in my room, closed the door, and sat in silence. That night, I realized something. My son wasn't the boy I raised anymore. He was hers. And if I tried to fight, they would devour me alive. So I chose silence. I chose to let them believe they'd won. And in that silence, I began planning the kind of revenge that doesn't shout, doesn't scream, but burns. They thought my silence was weakness. When my son stood in front of me that day, his wife by his side, her parents smirking in the background, and told me I was nothing, that the villa was theirs now, I didn't argue. I just smiled, and that smile, it rattled them. I could see it in Rebecca's eyes. She expected me to yell, to throw a fit, to fight tooth and nail for the house I had built with my blood. Instead, I gave her nothing but calm, because I knew something they didn't. The villa might have been made of bricks and wood, but the papers, the deed, the ownership, those were mine. Legally, spiritually, historically mine. And while they were busy celebrating their victory, I was already laying the foundation for my revenge. You see, I had learned a long time ago that screaming doesn't win wars. Silence does. So I played my part. At dinners, I smiled politely while Rebecca's parents walked to the villa, already pointing at rooms they would remodel. At family gatherings, I nodded as my son boasted about our home like he had earned it. And at night, alone in my room, I pulled out old boxes of memories, documents, and something far more powerful. Receipts, contracts, hidden clauses in the property deed that no one had bothered to read. Every brick of that villa was protected in ways they couldn't imagine. My wife and I had made sure of it years ago, because we knew money changes people. We just didn't expect it would change our own son. Still, the legal protection was just one part of my plan. I wanted something more personal, something that would make them feel the sting of their greed every time they remember that day. So I began to prepare. I won't lie, it wasn't easy. My heart ached every night. I would sit in the living room, staring at the photos of my late wife on the wall and whisper, "You'd know what to do. You'd know how to guide him back." But no answer came, just silence. And so I leaned into that silence. I started with small things. I moved my belongings quietly, sending important items to a storage facility under my name. I cataloged every memory I want to protect. Photographs, keepsakes, her wedding ring, and made sure they were safe, far away from greedy hands. I also made a few calls, lawyers, old friends in real estate, even the bank. I made sure everything was in place, that when the moment came, there would be no escape for them. The more they boasted, the calmer I became. Rebecca strutted through the villa like a queen. Her parents spoke as if the walls already belonged to them. And my son avoided my eyes. He knew deep down what he was doing was wrong. But weakness, when mixed with greed, is a dangerous poison. So I kept smiling, because revenge tastes better when served cold. And oh, was it about to be ice cold. The day finally came. Rebecca's family pulled up in a shiny rented truck, honking as if they owned the whole neighborhood. Her father jumped out first, puffing his chest, arms wide like a conquering king. Her mother followed, clutching boxes marked kitchen and decor. Rebecca strutted in heels that clacked against the pavement like victory drums. And my son, he trailed behind, avoiding my eyes as usual. They were loud, laughing, already planning out their villa. The guest room will be my sewing room. Rebecca's mother chirped. "We'll knock down this wall for an open kitchen," her father boomed. Rebecca smirked and added, "And the master bedroom will be ours." Of course. I just stood at the doorway, smiling, silent. They mistook my smile for surrender. Rebecca walked past me without even a glance, her perfume leaving a trail of arrogance. My son brushed by too, mumbling, "Dad, just don't make this harder." That was the moment. I took a deep breath, stepped inside, and waited for them to open the front door fully. Because the moment they did, silence fell. The laughter stopped, the boxes dropped, and their faces froze. The walls of the villa, my villa, looked nothing like they remembered. Gone were the family portraits they expected to replace. Gone was the furniture they thought they would inherit. Every wall was stripped bare. Every room was empty. And in the center of the living room, taped to the floor, was a large brown envelope, bold letters on the front, property deed and final notice. Rebecca's father picked it up with trembling hands. He opened it, expecting ownership papers, victory signed and sealed. Instead, his face drained of color. Inside were certified copies of the deed, showing my name alone, not my son's, not Rebecca's, not theirs. And attached, stapled for good measure, were legal eviction notices, effective immediately. The villa wasn't theirs. It had never been theirs. And now, the law made sure it never would be. Rebecca's voice cracked. "What is this? This isn't." I cut her off for the first time in weeks. My voice calm, steady, but sharp enough to slice through the air. This villa was built with my blood. My wife's memory is in these walls. You thought you could steal it with lies and greed? You thought you could erase me? I turned slowly to my son. His eyes were wide, wet, his lips trembling. He finally looked at me, really looked at me, for the first time in months. "You betrayed your own father for this? For them?" Rebecca's father snapped. "This is illegal. You can't just..." I smiled again. "Oh, but I can." And I did. "Every box you brought today will be leaving with you." Silence. Heavy, suffocating silence. Rebecca's mother whimpered. Rebecca screamed at my son, "You said it was ours. You promised me." And my son, my only son, just stood there, breaking under the weight of his choices. I didn't yell. I didn't gloat. I simply walked past them, opened the front door, and gestured outward. "Out. All of you. This villa will never be yours. Not today. Not ever." They left, slowly, bitterly, with faces pale as ash. Rebecca hissed something under her breath as she dragged a suitcase across the driveway, but I didn't hear it. I didn't care, because for the first time in months, the villa was quiet again. My wife's laughter seemed to echo softly through the halls. The house breathed, and so did I, but my heart was heavy. I had won the battle, yet the war had cost me something I couldn't replace, my son. When the last box was gone and the sound of their car faded down the street, I stood alone in the villa. My villa. The silence was so heavy it pressed against my chest. For the first time in months, I wasn't fighting back tears or biting down on rage. I walked through the room slowly, almost reverently. My hand brushed the walls, the staircase, the windows. It felt like the house itself was sighing with relief. But inside me, it wasn't victory. Not really. Yes, I had protected my home. Yes, I had defended my wife's memory. And yes, I had shown those greedy people that some things can be stolen. But I had also lost something. My son, the boy I raised, the boy I once cradled in my arms, the boy who once looked up at me like I hung the moon. He wasn't there anymore. And I couldn't help but wonder, did I push him away somehow? Did I fail him as a father? Or was he simply too weak to resist the poison of greed? That night, I sat in the living room, staring at a framed picture of my wife and me. She was smiling, holding our son as a toddler. His little hands were reaching for me in the photo. I whispered, "Did I do the right thing? Would you have done the same?" Of course, no answer came. The truth is, I don't know. Some nights, I feel like a hero, like I stood up against betrayal, like I defended what was mine. Other nights, I wonder if I become the villain in my own son's story. Maybe one day he'll understand. Maybe one day he'll come back. Or maybe he never will. But here's where I turn to you. Yes, you, sitting there, watching this. What would you have done in my place? Would you have fought louder sooner? Or would you have let them take everything just to keep your son close? Was I right to strike back with silence and legal fire? Or did I scorch too many bridges in the process? Am I the bad guy? Or was I just a father pushed too far? Tell me in the comments below, because I need to know if I was wrong or if I was just human. And if you've made it this far into my story, thank you. Truly, my pain, my lessons, my mistakes, they mean nothing if they don't help someone else. So please like this video, share it with someone who might understand, and don't forget to subscribe, because family drama doesn't just happen in movies. It happens in real life, and sometimes it leaves scars you can't see.